actual deep dive topic on the Apple thread because like a lot of this tracking stuff we've been talking about has been really driven around like phones and maybe computers. But I think the wearable market is, and I'll use wearable in a loose sense of basically everything that's not a phone or a computer. The amount of tracking that's happening there is honestly, like, I would say, exponentially growing. And so even recently there was this article that's on the screen here about how there's a lawsuit saying Siri and Google are listening even when they're not supposed to. Um, like I think Google, Apple, and Amazon, all three of these virtual assistant people, I think they pretty clearly say in their terms and conditions that they only start recording when like they're activated. The thing is, like, the activation mechanism, I think, is a little wonky. I've had plenty of times where if I'm at like my parents' house and they have an Alexa in their house, they're watching some TV show and it might just like light up and like think something, it heard its name, right? Even though it really didn't. And it was just the TV talking. And so it's like, well, if you're just getting triggered all willy nilly like that off of random TV phrases, then, that could happen a lot more and you would have no idea. And so I think, I guess, I don't know. It's hard to believe because I mean, I don't think they would just straight out lie about what they're collecting. I'm sure there's some legalese in there about why, how they're collecting more information than they're actually saying. And I think that's just probably where the lawsuit's going. But they usually are pretty clear about we only listen if you or record if you say the wake word. But there's got to be something else to it. I would imagine, just because I don't think they've earned our trust to believe otherwise.
I guess the key point is, do we uh, do we have control on that data? Number one, whatever data they have collected and stored out there, as a consumer, can we go into our account, look at the history, the recordings of the voices they have captured and uploaded, and do we have an option to delete that? I don't believe so. That's the first issue. Second issue, can we turn off some of the aspects, or disable a few aspects out there? Of course, you can turn off the entire, Siri or Alexa out there. I mean, in my case, I've turned everything off. But what more fine-grained, granular control you may have, that'll be helpful out there. But to me, the first one is critical. First one, where ability for me to go back and delete it, and make sure that I can tell them not to share that information to someone else. Who knows, they may have some other third party that they outsource this, who's training the algorithms for improving their voice systems to whatnot. That might be happening. But this is where the consumer has to be in control. I think that is what is missing at this point.
Is the consumer in control? It doesn't feel like it. And if there's so many ways for your data to escape, and so many companies that have their hand in your data, it doesn't feel like there's any bit of control. And I don't even know if we know how much of our data is out of our control. It's way too early to even speculate, but it feels like what's going on. Let's say that maybe this technology is still relatively new, and maybe even some of these folks that are making the technology don't know exactly how this stuff it works, or at least doesn't know enough about how it works, or didn't think about the ramifications of if it works the way they thought it would work. And I think there's so many unanswered and unknowables that it's pretty easy to say that the data is out of control, out of everybody's control. It's out of ours. It's even out of control of the technology folks, because they don't know what kind of federal policies are going to be made, and what's going to happen with that data if a policy is made that affects the way that they do things. There's just a whole bunch of unknowns here, and to see these kind of stories just makes you feel a little less comfortable about using some of this.
Yeah, I know the Amazon thing. We were chatting the other day, and we tried to do like a data request from Amazon. I think I submitted it on maybe the 5th on Monday or on Sunday or something like that. I think Brent did it a couple days ago. I'm still waiting 5 days to get my data dump, which is, I think, a very long time. But I saw a Twitter thread, which is what inspired me to get the data dump, where this lady had like gotten her downloaded information from Alexa, and it's like a folder that has every single recording, and you can play the recording, and the recording starts like maybe a second or two before she says Alexa, And so she says like, Alexa, like turn the lights on, and then you hear like the toilet flush in the background, and she's like, well, this is kind of embarrassing. But obviously that all got captured. So I mean, I think the data download aspect, maybe some companies are better about it than others, especially the bigger ones who kind of are scared about legal ramifications. But the deletion aspect, I think what Raji touched on, that's up in the air, right? Like you can maybe delete it from like your viewing from your side of things, but it doesn't delete it from their side of things in terms of using it for algorithms and other use cases. It's just like, all right, cool. Well, it's no longer seen on your account. I think like even Amazon has this thing where like, you know, every time you look for or search for an item on Amazon, it'll be like your browsing history that they have on Amazon that you can go through every single item you search for, and you can clear it, but it's very clear about saying that you're clearing it, you're not deleting it. And I feel like that kind of like word trickery is just like, you have no faith that that's actually what's happening. Is it deleting it, you know, locally? Is it tied to my account? Are you deleting it from all future recommendations you're going to do to me? You have no idea, right? Because it's always buried in just a bunch of legalese usually, and that's kind of, I think, one of the bigger problems, because there's just no transparency, and like, just be straight in what you're doing. And I think people would probably be okay with it and make the trade-off, right? And the people that won't, those are people who probably have ad blockers and like whatever, are already trying to circumvent the system, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, I guess the Amazon data dump was wild, because you can imagine how many fingers Amazon has its hands in, from like your Prime Video watching history, your Echo downloads, your purchase history, your addresses, your payment information, your browsing history, all that stuff tied in, which is probably why this data dump is taking quite some time, because they probably have to like pull it together from like 50 different services, or they probably just hope you forget about it. And, you know, if we wait, I think they have like 7 or 14 days to comply with the request. So they probably purposely wait until the last day, and then maybe you forgot about it, maybe you didn't. But I can imagine someone making that business decision. If you send it right away, then, you know, when you're requesting it, you're angry, you're going to go through it. But if you send it 7 days later when you're busy on like a Sunday afternoon, are you really going to go through it? I would not be surprised if that's how they schedule out those sendings and informations. But you know, once I get my hands on one of these, I think we should do like a little series of like downloading information from popular services and kind of just seeing what type of information is really being stored and captured. An interesting one on a completely tangent here is I got my information from like my tile trackers, like those like suitcase, luggage, Bluetooth things that go around. And that one was surprisingly, it was a painful process to even get the information. I had to like contact support, explain to them that I want a dump of my information. The guy was like, what are you talking about? We don't collect information. And I'm like, dude, are you lying to me? Like, go get a supervisor. There's no way you don't collect information. There's something you have on me. I want to know what it is. And then I like had to link the terms and conditions from their website and say, give it to me. So finally he puts in the request. I get it like a week later, and it's like this disgusting spreadsheet of like the worstly formatted data in the world. But it wasn't very comprehensive. It was like, you know, just last known location, contact information for like my account, and pretty much that was it. But just like, I'm talking like probably 50 to 60 columns that the information was spread across. And like, then there's like random hex values and hash values and stuff like that. So then I don't know exactly what it's connected to or where it's been used. But I think one of the bigger problems is just, you know, one, easily getting that information, and two, like how they try to game the system to make you not want to get it or not really want to go through it. I don't think most people would spend that effort. So kind of bad.
At some point, we have to ask: are always on microphones a good thing? Yeah. How much time? How many times in a day do you interact with it? And how much time is it recording on a daily basis? That's a good metric that's worth looking at. And in my case, initially when I had it on, I probably was asking 1 or 2 queries in a week, if not a month.
Yeah, exactly.
I basically turned it off, and then, but it has a lot more information, maybe several days worth of information about me that it is collected, and that I don't know if that is helpful at all. Now the second aspect to it is that has become common these days, where, you know, everyone has a device like that in their home, and more importantly, it is also being embedded elsewhere, embedded in TVs, embedded in speakers and whatnot. And that's another part where the consumer may not even know that there is a so-called voice assistant embedded in there listening to all of these, because not how many people know every single feature that their gadget has come down to. A gadget is using. And then there is, of course, Amazon. I think this week Amazon, I heard that is launching TVs you can bet that they're embedding Amazon Alexa in there, and what kind of recordings will be there. Maybe your every channel request or whatnot. And the amount of time it takes to download your data after you have your Amazon TV, it's probably going to be extended by another week. But these are becoming inevitable. But that also means it's taking the privacy away, where all your recordings are back there.
I think that's a perfect segue to or go ahead, Brett.
I just going to ask Taze, do you feel better, submitting the request and having to wait 7 to 14 days, or do you feel better if you hit a button? Yeah, we deleted it all. It's all gone. Don't worry about it. And
there's like a big winky face, like emoji at the end of it.
It's like, yeah, it's gone. Don't worry about it.
I really felt better. I think maybe a couple of years back when I pulled out my Amazon Alexa and put it in trash.
Wow.
You can't just pull it out and put it in the trash. You have to like factory reset it and like make sure that it's not tied to your account. Otherwise, now someone's running around filling up your Amazon account with their request.
Wow. This segment got dark, dude.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to get a little darker because our friends at the privacy company Facebook has announced or launched their glasses, which is going to be just the most amazing thing in the world. Where, I mean, what else is there to say? There's glasses with cameras on them, and you walk around recording stuff. So I can't imagine this to be an invasion. But I think it goes along the thread that Raji was talking about, where there's devices that you don't even know are collecting information. I think we hinted on this on maybe one of the very early episodes where, you go to somebody's house and that person's house may or may not be privacy secure in terms of like the devices that are connected to the network that are scanning other network devices, the apps that are using that are scanning local network for local devices. And so this is kind of another one where, most of the time people think, at least my privacy is in my hands. And if I care about it, I care about it. If I don't, I don't. But these kinds of things like speakers and these glasses, that's completely like outward facing, right? Because every time anyone goes into a home that has an Alexa, you're basically putting your privacy at risk. And here, if you happen to see one of these people with these Facebook glasses in front of you, you have to think twice and like see about it, right? I mean, Snapchat had these a while ago. It didn't work out very well for them, I don't think. These guys are trying it. The funniest take I heard on it was there's nothing like a monopoly like Facebook teaming up with another monopoly like Luxottica to make these glasses. It's just a match made in heaven. But yeah, I mean, technically there's a light on there that shows if you're recording, but clearly this is the first step of trying to do this. And then there's no like AR capabilities or augmented aspects to it. So it is pretty basic, like camera recording that I think streams to Facebook or either saves on your phone and then uploads to Facebook, but something along those lines. But I guess who's asking for this?
Well, what's kind of scary about this is my glass frames are Ray-Ban, so I might actually already have this going on. I don't know, but it's kind of at least they try to make them look stylish. Remember the Google glasses? Those things look terrible. At least they're giving you surveillance with style here. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And I'm being totally tongue in cheek here. I would never. I can't imagine wearing that.
We're gonna make that a clip right there for you, Brett, and we're gonna say you were the first user. You got like a beta version delivered to you. You've been wearing them this whole time. We'll have a new like POV version of this show coming directly from his face. What he sees, it'll be a whole new thing.
Thanks.
I mean, if you remove the privacy, surveillance, and that part of it, there is I see the cameras embedded in glasses as a good feature in a very good segment, small segment. Like if you're snowboarding, you're wearing glasses, and instead of putting another GoPro on there, if it is embedded, then it works in that particular very context out there. So long term, I think GoPro-ish use cases make sense, but not in a common case where you're basically walking around with surveillance glasses around and recording other people. So having your camera on your glasses is very similar to someone embedding a tracker in the website. you're doing it, but the purpose is to get someone else, track someone else, record someone else, and that is the scary part. And the other person may or may not know about it. And I think Facebook is making it illegal to hide one of those the lights out there or some such thing, So it's like you bought a device, but they are making it illegal to use the device in the way you like. There's some such language in their legal policy, I believe.
Well, they don't want you interfering with their data surveillance going on.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, like covering up the recording LED was like a violation of their terms and conditions, which I guess is good. But then it's like, how does Facebook know you covered up the thing? Does that mean that there's like another light sensor that sees if the light sensor is even on or like shining enough to show? So not very good. But I mean, AR, VR is kind of like Facebook's, I think, big bet into kind of diversifying between Oculus and this. And I think they'll double down. But yeah, it's the metaverse. I mean, in general, I think AR type stuff is a little bit more interesting than just this kind of recording. Like Roger said, those kind of GoPro replacements, and the fact that GoPro really hasn't innovated, I don't think, in years. They're on like version 10 of the exact same looking camera that hasn't really improved in a lot of ways. If they came into this space, it probably would have made a lot more sense. And I think it could be really good to get these kind of point of views for certain things. But yeah, like not knowing when you are recording, and it's like, if you've seen the pictures on this thing, like that recording light is like extremely small, like the size of probably like a grain of rice. And it's like, all right, cool. You're in a big like open area and someone has it on. Do you really know? Do you not know? Is that any different than someone like waving their phone around? I guess maybe not. But it's just like, why? I guess it's really like,
that's a deliberate design decision in this case.
Yeah.
Tejas. So it's like the small ad symbol you see in a Google search result, where the color keeps fading every iteration. So it's the same feature here.
I mean, I think even this, like, I mean, from I think glasses are just kind of like the jumping point too, though, because I mean, even there was a big uproar when Google got Fitbit. I'm pretty sure that got finalized and everything like that about Fitbit data going around. There's, I mean, wearable, especially health device trackers are, I think, extremely emerging market in general. And one of the best takes on that in general was just like, almost every one of these companies will say that, well, first of all, wearable devices are not covered by HIPAA. So that's right off the bat, you're not really secured in that manner. But the bigger thing is, like, most of them in their privacy policies will say, like, we don't sell or share your personal information, whatever, right? But as we dug deep in a number of these episodes, that it's not personal information that's really that important. My name doesn't need to be tagged to it, but if they know my location, they know my IP address, they know my device fingerprint, and they match that up with 3 other sources, they know exactly who I am. And so whether they're sharing personally identifiable information or anonymized information, it's the same thing, which I think, again, is just like, I mean, technically they're not sharing personal information, so I guess they are saying the truth, but knowing that personal information can be coupled with other data sources to de-anonymize it, like we know, makes it a lot worse, right? Because imagine, if I was a pharmaceutical company and I wanted to target everybody in Austin, or let's see, even South Austin where I live, and who have X, Y, and Z conditions and are this age, they would easily have it. They might not have my name, but they know exactly the cohort that I'm in. And so I think this whole game of like personal information is just dumb, because like if you can narrow down that cohort to a size of 1 or 2 or 3 people, you are exactly targeting that individual. You're just not saying you are, right? So I don't know. I think it's this wearable thing is just a very snowball effect.
They have, you're right. It has a snowball effect. And again, by the way, the Facebook Glass, one thing I was unsure is, one, it comes with microphone. That's definitely the case. Second, I don't know if the light will be on if they're recording it.
I think it has to be on if you record it.
If you're recording even the audio part?
Audio. I didn't know it was audio only.
Yeah.
Could be
the next software update. Yeah. So that's your equivalent of your Siri or Alexa in there,
right,
in the works.